Ever observed a feline in hot pursuit of its own tail? It circles endlessly, picking up speed, utterly sure that one more burst of effort or a tad more velocity will let it seize what it's after. Yet, the fiercer the chase, the trickier the target slips away. Then, in an instant, the creature pauses. It plops down, stretches with a yawn, and starts grooming a paw. Right there, resting calmly alongside, is the very tail it had been hounding. This, folks, captures the essence of how we humans operate. We devote our days to pursuing fulfillment, triumphs, serenity, and affection. We whirl until we're lightheaded from the exertion. We shove, we prod, we resist the inherent rhythm of existence, certain that life is a challenge to conquer instead of an experience to embrace. Imagine if I revealed that this very pushing is what blocks you from your desires? What if the key to possessing it all lies in desiring none of it? From our earliest years, society drills into us that existence is a contest to claim victory in. We have to battle for our spot in the universe, battle fate, surmount hurdles via raw determination alone. That's the grand deception of our era. We hold the faith that sufficient toil, meticulous schemes, and ironclad oversight can twist the world to our whims. But authentic existence operates differently. It's akin to liquid rather than rock, to melody rather than mechanism. Consider your respiration just now. As you settle in, your frame and chest expand and contract on their own, requiring zero input from you. No need to deliberate, orchestrate, or compel it. It unfolds smoothly, without strain. Suppose, though, you resolved to master your inhalations entirely. If you compelled every breath, calibrated each intake flawlessly, regulated every outrush with exactitude, soon you'd feel tense, rigid, disconnected from your own cadence. The compulsion itself would disrupt the innate elegance that already prevailed. Precisely this is our approach to living. We transform what ought to be as instinctive as inhaling into a grind. We compel our bonds, insisting they match our ideals precisely. We compel our professions, grinding away until we lose sight of the original drive for accomplishment. We compel our joy, pursuing delights and shunning discomforts until the pursuit drains us dry. Yet an alternative path exists. There's timeless insight about Wu Wei, the practice of engaging without compulsion. It's the manner of a stream, which charts its course not by clashing with boulders, but by gliding past them. A river doesn't resist the terrain. It welcomes the present reality and seeks the smoothest route forward. Over ages, with steady gentleness, it etches valleys and molds peaks. I recall a fellow who devoted years to bullying his path toward bliss. He toiled through 16-hour shifts, persuaded that ample wealth, the ideal home, and the flawless partner would at last bring satisfaction. He orchestrated life's every facet, timetabled each instant, manipulated whatever factors he could identify. Still, the more relentlessly he hunted his ideal existence, the deeper his despair grew. Eventually, worn out and broken, he ended up beside a stream. No strength remained for scheming, compelling, or hustling. He just lingered, observing the current drift by. In that instant of total yielding, a remarkable shift occurred. He experienced a tranquility beyond anything before, a satisfaction utterly independent of his situation. Quote, "The bliss he'd hunted for ages was present. It had forever been present, lingering softly amid all his frenzied toil. Such is the profound riddle. Cease compelling existence. Ease your hold and permit matters to unfold, and you realize the sought-after prize was never missing. It merely lay concealed under your quest to uncover it." Let me clarify one point. By advocating against compulsion, I don't mean lapsing into idleness or inertia. Nor am I implying you abandon initiative or drift aimlessly without purpose. The skill of non-compulsion is far more nuanced. It involves discerning between moves born of organic impulse and those driven by frantic clutching. Picture an expert bowman. As the seasoned shooter pulls back the string, immense power and accuracy infuse the motion, but no coercion, no tension, no obsessive fixation on the outcome. The shooter merges with the weapon, the shaft, the mark. The shot releases organically at the precise instant, akin to mature produce dropping from a branch. This embodies moving without force. You may labor, innovate, chase ambitions still, yet with a gentle approach. You sow kernels and nourish them, but refrain from yanking the sprouts to hasten their rise. You perform what lies within your reach. You take the steps you can manage, then pull back and let existence unfold on its own. But this is where things really start to spark curiosity. So many of us have grown up wired to push relentlessly that we've lost touch with what effortless movement truly involves. We can't always spot the gap between gliding along with the stream and battling the tide. So, how do you start spotting that distinction? Tune into your inner sensations during those moments of doing. Pushing brings along this sense of strain, tightness, an urgent craving for outcomes to align just so. You might hear that inner chatter insisting, quote, 1. In contrast, when you're in sync, there's vitality and purpose, yet it resembles fun more than labor. It carries an organic ease, akin to a bird's song or a blossom unfurling. Pushing resembles heaving a boulder up a slope. Sinking feels like cruising on a helpful breeze. Each demands focus and practice, yet one fights the essence of things, the other harmonizes with it. Allow me to share the story of Sierra, someone I knew who stumbled upon this insight in the least likely manner. She was an artist who'd devoted years to compelling herself toward brilliant works. She'd perch before her canvas for endless stretches, grappling fiercely to yield something profound, something that validated her talent. Her output back then was rigid, restrained, devoid of spark. One afternoon, overwhelmed by irritation, she hurled her tools aside and stormed off. She avoided painting for weeks, but bit by bit, she began doodling sporadically with a pencil, capturing odds and ends that drew her gaze. A feline dozing by a sill, patterns of shade on a surface, her fingers cradling a mug of brew. No demands, no targets, no compulsion. She was merely toying around like a kid at play. And then enchantment crept in. Those casual drawings pulsed with vitality, improvisation, allure, qualities her labored epics had never captured. Upon resuming her paints, she carried that essence forward. Rather than chasing monumental pieces, she just rendered what yearned to emerge. And ironically, that's precisely when her creations soared to true excellence. That's the enigma of releasing the push. Cease straining to embody a certain ideal, and you reveal your authentic self. Quit clutching so fiercely at joy, and you realize completeness already resides within. Halt the urge to reshape reality, and it reveals wonders just as it stands. Yet let's ground this in reality. How does one embody this amid a society that celebrates the grind? How do you ease off the accelerator when surroundings urge you to floor it? Begin by seeing that much of what you believe demands coercion isn't essential whatsoever. Society's drilled into us that bulldozing toward victory is the path. Yet triumphs born of such efforts seldom bring deep fulfillment upon arrival. We compel joy into being, but coerced cheer is mere facade. We shove connections to endure. But bonds needing perpetual prodding often signal their inherent fragility. Begin observing the spots in your routine where you're imposing will. Do you compel yourself to linger in energy-sapping scenarios? To masquerade as someone else? To mold others into your preferred mold? Or to hammer fixes on issues that could sort themselves if untouched? I recall a fellow who sought my counsel, anxious over his adolescent boy. The teen was flunking classes, wandering home late, acting defiant and adrift. The dad had exhausted every tactic, laying down ironclad guidelines, bringing in coaches, delivering stern talks, doling out penalties. Zilch took hold. The harder he pressed, the fiercer the pushback. At last, worn out from the fray, the parent opted for a fresh tack. Rather than molding his kid into shape, he positioned himself as present. He quit the monologues and tuned in to hear. He dropped the penalties and embraced faith. He retained his parental duties, but shed the compulsion to dominate. The shift was astonishing. Absent the barrage of fixes, the youth started charting his path. The defiance, once so chaotic, proved his innate drive toward independence. With the imposition lifted, real dialogue opened up. The bond, fracturing under dominance's weight, mended amid openness. This illustrates my point. Easing the grip on existence transforms it all. It may not morph as you anticipated or insisted. It evolves as required, as it always sought to before your interventions obstructed. Now consider this twist that could catch you off guard. Refraining from imposition doesn't equate to indifference. Quite the reverse. It frequently signals deeper investment expressed differently. When you release the reins on results, you're liberated to offer by giving your complete focus to the moment. Without clinging desperately to what comes next, you open up to truly immerse yourself in the present. Consider the contrast between a parent pushing their kid to excel, just to validate their own parenting, and one who nurtures the child's development out of pure affection. In the former case, it's all about the parent's desires. In the latter, it's centered on the kid's true benefit. The pushing approach breeds tension and bitterness, while the supportive one fosters security and motivation. Once you let go of the push, your affection flows more openly, unhinged from demands for certain reactions. Your efforts become more productive, unweighed down by frantic fixation on exact results. And your leisure turns more delightful since it's not secretly just another chore. There's a classic Taoist tale about a fellow whose horse ran away. His neighbors rushed over to console him, lamenting, "Such misfortune!" Yet he replied calmly, "Perhaps." The following day the horse came back, accompanied by a herd of wild ones. The neighbors praised his stroke of luck, but he just said, "Perhaps." Soon after, his son attempted to break in one of the wild horses and ended up with a fractured leg. Once more, the neighbors expressed pity, and once more he responded, "Perhaps." Then conflict erupted in the area, drafting all able-bodied youths, except his son, who was spared thanks to the injury. The moral here isn't to brush off life's events with apathy. Rather, it's a reminder that we can't fully grasp how any single occurrence fits into the grand design of our existence. By imposing our rigid views on happenings, by insisting they must be positive or negative, we overlook the profound guidance that's perpetually unfolding. Existence carries its innate insight, its perfect pace, its unique path of revelation. When we cease jamming our narrow agendas into this broader flow, we start aligning with it. We learn to move in harmony with existence rather than battling it head-on. Now, regarding aspirations, what of visions and drives? Am I suggesting you simply float through days without purpose or aim? Far from it. Ambitions and aims can be wonderful guides. The key lies in your grasp on them. Do you cradle them gently, like a fragile bird that could take flight any time? Or do you clutch them so fiercely that you damage the very thing you seek to protect? Distinguish between favoring certain paths and being enslaved to fixed ends. You might hope for a particular turn of events, yet stay receptive to alternatives. You can pursue your objectives while remaining intrigued by what seeks to arise. You can cherish visions while embracing life's unexpected twists. I encountered a woman once who'd envisioned herself as a physician since childhood. She poured effort into her studies, prepped rigorously for med school admissions, submitted applications, but got rejected. She might have bulldozed ahead, enduring endless retakes, funding costly coaching, letting her whole world revolve around cracking that door. But instead, she mourned the setback, then pondered, quote, 6. That led her to nursing, advancing to nurse practitioner, and ultimately launching a health center for those unable to access standard care. In time, she saw how her journey enabled deeper, broader impact than a conventional MD role likely would have. Her original longing came true, just not through the rigid script she'd scripted for herself. That's the essence of existence's cleverness. By releasing our constrained foresight into the world, we create room for outcomes beyond our wildest blueprints. The cosmos outshines our individual resolve in creativity every time. Yet I sense a worry bubbling up as you mull this over. You may fear that easing off the force will turn you slack, dull your drive, sap your competitive spark, or hobble your accomplishments. That's a widespread concern, rooted in the false idea that compulsion is the sole shield against inertia. But reflect on this. What fuels you more? Pursuing passions that arise organically from your passions and talents, or dragging yourself through disliked tasks out of obligation? What yields superior outcomes, endeavors born of authentic zeal and innate aptitude, or those grinding out from sheer willpower and strained toil? Ceasing the force doesn't strip your strength. It uncovers your authentic vitality, surpassing the fragile, draining might of sheer grit that demands non-stop upkeep. You tap into the effortless, enduring force of instinctive momentum. Rather than resisting the stream, you harness its current to fulfill what genuinely matters. This shift isn't instant. Many of us have been compelling ourselves for ages, losing touch with our innate cadence. We've paddled upstream so relentlessly that we no longer embrace that sensation of going with the current. Mastering the skill of letting go without pushing is much like figuring out how to stay afloat. Initially, easing up and relying on the water to support you can feel intimidating. Yet, as soon as you realize that loosening your grip actually boosts your buoyancy rather than diminishing it, a shift occurs. So, how might you start cultivating this practice of avoiding force? Begin modestly. Spot those small moments where you're exerting effort in vain. Perhaps you're straining in discussions, overdoing it to seem engaging or noteworthy. Instead, opt for simply hearing the other out, showing real interest in them. Or consider how you battle through congested roads, raging against stoplights and sluggish motorists. Experiment with embracing the existing rhythm, seizing the opportunity to inhale deeply or observe what's around you. Tune in to your physical state. Whenever you push, it builds bodily strain. Your neck tightens, your teeth grind, your breaths turn quick and light. Spotting this strain serves as a cue that you're resisting the natural rhythm rather than aligning with it. Inhale slowly. Let your posture soften and ponder. How would this unfold if I stopped pushing? Observe the nature of your inner dialogue during those pushing phases. It often carries a frantic, looping vibe. This must succeed. This must succeed. This must succeed. Or questioning, why is progress so sluggish? Or lamenting, by this point I ought to have advanced more. Such mental pressures generate distress without truly advancing matters. When you detect this inner push, swap out the insistent ideas for inquisitive alternatives. Rather than demanding this must succeed, consider wondering what might unfold. In place of fretting over the slow pace, ask what lesson this tempo holds for you. Instead of judging your position, reflect on precisely where you stand at present. Yet, the key insight about refraining from force is that it doesn't equate to inaction. It involves shifting to attentiveness over impulsiveness. It entails discerning what the present demands, as opposed to overlaying your fixed plans on every circumstance. At times, it invites calm, and you settle in without remorse or agitation. Other moments, it urges voicing your thoughts, sometimes silence, occasionally advancing, or even stepping away. The skill lies in sensing the requirement intuitively, not predetermining what you believe ought to occur. This attuned awareness demands a focus that modern society seldom nurtures. We are conditioned to stay occupied, perpetually engaged, cramming each instant with tasks or distractions. True attentiveness, however, calls for openness, quietude, the capacity to heed life's faint undercurrents. It's akin to contrasting someone who chatters endlessly with another who discerns the right times to contribute or hold back. The non-stop speaker might output volumes, yet seldom delivers substance, as they're oblivious to the dialogue's true needs. The attuned individual contributes sparingly, but their input carries weight, synced with the instant's essence. Navigating life without pushing mirrors this approach. You invest less effort, yet achieve greater results since it harmonizes with emerging possibilities. You expend minimal energy, but yield more by collaborating with life's momentum instead of clashing against it. Allow me to recount one final anecdote drawn from my own journey. Long back, I grappled with a writing project under a pressing deadline. I hunkered down at my keyboard for endless stretches, compelling output from myself. But every line emerged flat, devoid of spark, inauthentic. The fiercer my drive, the more dismal the results. I was caught in a loop of coercion yielding only exasperation. Eventually, I surrendered. Abandoning my workspace, I strolled along the seaside. I wasn't aiming to crack my creative block or hunt for ideas. I was merely ambling, absorbed in the ocean's cadence and the grit of the shore underfoot. Then, effortlessly, phrases started surfacing. Not the contrived scraps I'd been battling, but vibrant expressions eager to emerge. I didn't hurry back to type them out. I allowed them to drift through my mind as I wandered, confident that essentials would linger. Upon resuming the work later, it resembled a stream rushing through an unclogged path. The stalled concepts flowed freely, effortlessly. The composition shaped itself, surpassing any forced attempt I'd managed. That episode revealed a vital truth about inspiration and existence alike. Excellence arises not from compulsion. It springs from fostering an environment where excellence can surface organically. A cultivator doesn't compel blossoms to open. They supply earth, moisture, light, then observe and believe. The flowering unfolds independently. As we approach the close of our session, I'd like to impart this final reflection. You aren't flawed. No repair is required. You don't need to don't push yourself to become someone else, more accomplished, more enlightened, more whatever. Instead, ease up on the pressure and let the innate splendor within you surface naturally. You're akin to a stream blocked by the barriers you've built in your quest to steer its path. Once you dismantle those obstacles of compulsion, once you cease striving to transform into something you're not, your innate rhythm resumes, and that rhythm navigates its course far wiser than your thoughts ever might. The shifts that arise from releasing this grip aren't always what you anticipate. They tend to surpass expectations, fresher, more inventive, more in harmony with your core essence than any scheme your ego could devise. By stepping aside from your own path, you create room for existence to reveal untapped potentials. So consider this moment an opportunity. Observe the areas in your daily existence where you're exerting force. Where might surrender prove more fruitful than resistance? What elements are you gripping tightly that could thrive if released? Which struggles are you waging that could dissolve on their own if you set aside your defenses? This isn't about passivity or abandoning your values. It's about discerning the strained pursuits driven by anxiety from the fluid movements born of compassion. It's about believing that existence isn't a foe to subdue, but a companion in rhythm, ready for you to sync with its cadence. Cease imposing your will on life, and transformation unfolds. Not through bending the world to your desires, but through permitting the world to unveil the gifts it held for you from the start. Those gifts are invariably more exquisite, more fitting, more precisely suited to you than any outcome you could coerce. The feline has quit pursuing its own shadow. It now rests serene, intact, and fulfilled, no longer pursuing what was eternally part of it. Here's your cue. Halt the frenzy. Quit the pursuit. Pause amid the flow of your days and realize that the pursuit's object resides here already, ever present, patiently awaiting the instant you relinquish control and permit yourself to just, hey,